Welcome to The Explainer, where we completely shatter the old myth that business profit and personal development are somehow competing goals. Seriously, so many organizations treat these as two entirely separate lanes, but today we're going to look at the incredibly powerful concept of merging human flourishing right into the bottom line. Using some fantastic research and real-world examples, we'll see exactly why the most successful cultures out there actually fuse them together. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The corporate treadmill. Okay, let's dive into this by looking at the frustrating, everyday reality of the standard corporate environment. Have you ever worked somewhere where personal development basically meant sitting through a painfully boring, mandated HR seminar once a year? It's treated as this additive side hustle, right? Something that only gets attention when there's extra time or money, which, let's be honest, is never. And the reality, mistakes are quietly swept under the rug because everyone is terrified of looking bad in front of the boss. They're just protecting their own egos. So human growth gets completely divorced from the actual business of making a profit.
Moving right along to Section 2, the toxic reality.
When an organization separates development from the actual work, well, highly toxic things start to happen, and the fallout is pretty severe. First off, mistakes become deeply stigmatized, and that creates an underlying culture of fear. Because of that fear, employees actively hide their weaknesses instead of just asking for help. Naturally, the gaps between team members continuously widen, and as a result, meaningful communication completely breaks down. In this kind of environment, people aren't performing at their best. Everyone's just trying to survive.
Now, consider this for a second. What is the culture of your own family? Let me ask you that directly. Because whether you intentionally set out to create one or not, a culture already exists in your home, just like it already exists in your office. You literally cannot escape culture. You can only choose whether you're going to actively shape it or just let it shape you.
Section 3. The DDO solution.
So what's the cure for this corporate treadmill? Harvard professors Robert Kegan and Lisa Lahag coined this truly revolutionary concept, the Deliberately Developmental Organization, or DDO. Basically, it's a system that systematically creates the conditions to drive human flourishing and business flourishing as one interdependent set of goals. By proving that the absolute best environments merge profit with personal growth, they show us that these aren't competing forces at all. They actually feed directly into one another. To put this into perspective, let's look at how Super Bowl-winning head coach Pete Carroll used this exact philosophy to align 100 alpha competitors on the Seattle Seahawks. In your standard office, it's all about surviving and protecting your ego. But in a DDO environment, everyone is actively helping each other find their absolute best. Instead of a bunch of disconnected individual goals, you have a shared vision where everyone's nose is pointing in the exact same direction. And instead of development being some boring HR perk, development becomes the core business engine itself. It's a real game changer. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, that sounds great for a bunch of massive NFL linebackers, but how does this apply to, say, Steve in accounting? It's a totally fair question. You might think elite mindset training is only for professional athletes, but how does it actually translate to a standard desk job? Well, high-performance psychologist Dr. Michael Gervais points out a fascinating reality. In this life, we can only really train three things: our craft, our body, and our mind. Yet we absurdly spend almost all our time at work, like a whopping 99% of it, focused solely on training our craft. We vastly underinvest in the mind. And the crazy thing is, mental fitness is exactly what drives elite performance, whether you're taking hits on a football field or crunching numbers in a cubicle.
Section 4. 3 core DDO pillars.
Okay, let's dive into exactly how you can implement this. The foundational truth of a DDO is pretty straightforward. Pain plus reflection equals progress. You absolutely must destigmatize and even celebrate mistakes. Think about the logic here. If your team is terrified to fail, there's no way they're going to innovate. They're just going to play it safe every single day. True growth requires pushing boundaries, making those mistakes, and then reflecting on that pain so you can actually move forward. So here are the 3 concrete steps derived from the research that you need to build this high-performing culture. Step 1, destigmatize and celebrate mistakes. Step 2, make personal development the actual business engine. It simply cannot be a separate side activity. And step 3, expose and close the gaps between people. There has to be this constant, relentless effort to bring your team closer together. Now, what's really interesting here is that making development the engine of your business means demanding your team build a resilient personal philosophy. You have to challenge people to know exactly who they are.
You need to help them identify where their center is. And most importantly, you have to determine how they're going to handle the inevitable challenges when things inevitably get hard. And when it comes to closing those gaps between people, it requires a relentless daily effort to serve those around you. Coach Carroll perfectly summarizes it here. Being a great teammate ultimately comes down to being in service of others. It's not about who has the loudest voice in the room, right? It's about who is doing the most to actually lift up the people sitting right next to them.
Which brings us to Section 5, Culture is Your Strategy. Let this startling truth from Harvard's Keegan and Lahi really sink in. The culture you create is your strategy, and the key to success is developing everyone. I mean, think about that. Your true strategy isn't your marketing plan. It's not your shiny new product roadmap. Your strategy is the culture itself. This right here is the literal difference between surviving and thriving. The traditional leader focuses rigorously only on sales targets and metrics, but the elite leader, they treat the team's mental fitness and personal growth with the exact same rigor. Personal development and profit cannot be two different aims. They're so deeply interconnected that a high-performing culture absolutely needs both at its core. If you give your absolute best to developing the people around you, well, the business flourishing is naturally going to follow. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge. Before you begin building your own deliberately developmental organization, take a hard look at your current environment. What is the core philosophy of your team's culture right now? Are you stuck on that corporate treadmill, treating development as just another side hustle, or are you truly making it the engine of your business?